Listen, this summer, I want you to read at least a book a week if you can. If you can only do a book every 2 weeks, I'll accept that. You only got about 8 weeks off, so at least get 4 books in. The reason why I want you to read is because as a certified school psychologist, my job is to evaluate children for special education. I'm the one who gives out the IQ test. I'm the one who decides if you're autistic or reading disabled or emotionally disturbed or intellectually disabled. That's my business. But guess what? A lot of you end up in special ed, not because you got a learning disability, but because you have a lazy disability. Most of you don't need no IEP, incarceration, education preparation. What you need is to work harder. Because if you cannot read on your grade level, and if you graduate from high school not reading on your grade level, there's a 75% chance you'll spend some of your time in prison if you are a young man. It is a 75% chance you'll spend your life in poverty if you are a young woman. And guess what? With the tests that I give y'all, these IQ tests, these reading tests, these math tests, these comprehension tests, you know why we score low on them? Because we don't have the working vocabulary to understand the words so we can understand the question and answer it correctly. And the reason you don't have the working vocabulary is you spend too much time on that cell phone. Too much Twitter, too much TikTok, too much Instagram, too much Snapchat. I'm not telling you to give up social media, but if social media is not put in its place, this world will sit you down in your place. Now, listen. College prep does not begin in 12th grade. College prep begins in 9th grade. Those of you who are freshmen, you should be brainstorming a list of 25 schools you think you want to apply to when you get to your senior year. You don't wait till 12th grade. You do that as a freshman. 10th grade, you know what you should be doing? You should start visiting some of those schools with your parents. That's what you should be doing in 10th grade. You should also be taking the practice ACT and the practice SAT so you can get that score as high as possible. And why? If you score high on that ACT, that SAT, you're not only getting to college, you're likely to get it paid for. And I want all of you to go to school for free because I don't want you paying off student loans like I have to do and many of your parents have to do. I want you to get a free ride. And the way you get a free ride is to score high on them tests and earn them grades in school. Now, nobody here will be a high school dropout. And I'm gonna tell you why you will not be a high school dropout. You won't even settle for a GED. You're gonna get a high school diploma. You know why? Because even though the GED says you can read, write, and count, the high school diploma also says you can read, write, and count. But do you know what the high school diploma says that the GED does not say? It says you went to school for 13 years, kindergarten plus 12, and showed up most of the time, did your work most of the time, passed the test most of the time. The high school diploma doesn't just show academic proficiency, it shows integrity, honor, and character. And that's why you want your high school diploma, not just a GED. Now when you apply to school, if it's up to Dr. Umar, you're going to apply to at least 20 schools. You don't need more than 50, that's overkill, no less than 5. 5 schools are going to be in the state of Maryland because I want you to start school right after high school so you don't get distracted with what goes on in the hood. So make sure you apply to University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Make sure you apply to Baltimore County Community College. Make sure you apply to a couple in the area in case you don't get in to the school of your choice. 5 of your schools are going to be in the boondocks, in the middle of nowhere. Nothing but white folks, Caucasian nation. Why does Dr. Umar want you to apply to a bunch of schools with no color on campus? Because if you apply to some colleges that don't have any color on campus, it increases your likelihood of getting in and get a scholarship even if you don't deserve it because they need some color on campus. Do you feel me? Yeah. 4 of your schools will be your dream schools. These are the schools you always wanted to go to. Morehouse, Spelman, University of California, University of Florida, but I call them dream schools. Because if you ain't got the SATs or the ACTs or the grades or the money, you dreaming if you think you're going there. And then your other 8 schools or 10 schools are going to be schools that you realistically can get accepted to that are not in the state of Maryland. You have the grades they want, you have the courses they want, You have the SAT scores they want. You have the ACT scores you want. And that's why you're going to apply to 8 to 10 of those. I don't want you going to school in Baltimore because you're going to get distracted. I want you at least 2 hours away. Whether you come up to Delaware or Pennsylvania or go down to Virginia, or even if you go to school on the eastern shore of Maryland, but you need to be a comfortable 2 hours away so you don't get distracted by family, friends, homies, and girlfriends who don't have academic excellence on their mind. Listen, every last one of you, no matter what you major in college, you're going to get your real estate license. Do not forget this. In fact, one of the books you need to read this summer is the Real Estate License Study Guide for the state of Maryland. You know why? Most millionaires in America are what? Realtors. So you're going to be a nurse and a realtor, a teacher and a realtor, an engineer and a realtor. You're going to be an architect and a realtor, a plumber and a realtor. And let me say this about plumbing, electric, HVAC, roofing, welding, auto mechanic. If you don't necessarily want to go to college, that's fine, but you will go to trade school. 2 or 3 years in trade school, you're a licensed plumber. I know plumbers who make more money than doctors. I know electricians who make more money than engineers. So if college is not your thing, that's all right, but go to trade school. Go to real estate school. You got to get some kind of post-high school credential in order to make it in an America that is increasingly competitive and increasingly racist. And the best way to eliminate the impact of racism in your life is to be the best that you can be. Don't go to college if you're going to be average. Don't go to college if you're going to be common. Don't go to college if you're just going to try to slide through and breeze through. You should only be going to college if you want to be the best at what it is you're going to be studying. I'm serious about that. I want to say this and I'm going to close. Make sure you study your history. Especially those of you of African descent, study your history. Latino descent, study your history. Caucasian descent, study your history. Native American descent, study your history. Know from whence you came. Because your self-esteem, your self-concept, your belief in yourself is a direct reflection of the greatness you understand your people to have accomplished sometime in the past. Study yourself. Now you guys live in Baltimore. That's good news. Because guess what? My favorite bookstore is in Baltimore, and my favorite museum is in Baltimore. My favorite museum is the National Great Blacks and Wax on North Avenue. Shame on you if you ain't been there, because I go a couple times a year, and I'm 2 hours away in Philadelphia. So no excuses for you. That's my favorite museum. My favorite bookstore is Everyone's Place, also on North Avenue. The best black books you can get. And then when you're done with that, you need to go to the Frederick Douglass Frank Meriwether Maritime Museum in Baltimore. Then you need to go down to DC to the Frederick Douglass House, the Benjamin Banneker House, the Carter G. Woodson House, the Mary McLeod Bethune House, the Smithsonian National Museum, Sankofa Bookstore at Howard University's campus. And let me say this, and I'm gonna leave y'all. You see what happened there? Something happened, and my young brothers right there, you lost your discipline. Listen to me. I'm not picking on you. I want you to hear me well. Because most of the young men in juvenile detention that I got to go talk to in Maryland in a couple weeks, I just got an invitation to come to Maryland this afternoon to talk to some juveniles at the Juvenile Detention Center. I don't know what county. It might not be Baltimore County. And you know what they all have in common? And when I go into the prisons, you know what they all have in common, including the ladies' prison? They lack discipline. Emotional discipline, sexual discipline, academic discipline, industrial discipline. You must develop discipline. Because guess what? I don't care how intelligent you are. Some of you might be mentally gifted. Some of you might be geniuses. Some of you might be wealthy advanced. But guess what? That don't mean nothing. I'm a psychologist. I've tested thousands of children who score 130 and higher on the IQ test, and it means nothing without discipline. And I'm going to give you Dr. Umar's definition of discipline. It's the ability to do what you don't want to do when it has to be done, whether you like it or not. If you don't have that, I don't care how smart you is, you will not make it in life. And my young brothers, the reason why y'all being diagnosed with ADHD, the reason y'all being diagnosed with conduct disorder, the reason y'all being diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder and intermittent explosive disorder, and the reason They can't wait to shove a Ritalin pill down your throat, or an Adderall pill down your throat, or a Concerta pill down your throat, or a Metadate pill down your throat. It's not because you have a psychiatric problem. You ain't got no damn discipline. And if you don't get it together, you will suffer because of it. I'll leave you with a quote from Frederick Douglass, your fellow Baltimorean. My ancestor Frederick Douglass said, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom but deprecate agitation are like men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain but can't stand the thunder or the lightning. They want the ocean, but they're scared of the awful roar of the waves." He said, "A man may not get all you pay for, but you will pay for everything that you get." And if we as black people are ever to become free of the injustices inflicted upon us, we must pay for their removal. We may pay with words, we may pay with blows, we might pay with our life, but there is no freedom for the man or woman who doesn't take it. Frederick Douglass said, "For 20 years, I prayed on my knees to God for freedom, and the good Lord gave me no freedom until I got up off my knees and started praying with my feet." He said, "If you want respect from Caucasians, why do you look for pity? The man who pities you will never respect you, and the man who respects you has no need for pity." My family came from Nigeria, 1701. A black man named Bailey stolen from Nigeria. He was brought to Eastern Shore, Maryland. He married a black woman, Grandma Selah, for whom my 13-year-old daughter is named. In 1745, they had Grandma Jenny. In 1774, Grandma Jenny had Grandma Betsy. She was born enslaved. She married a free black man, my grandpa Isaac. They had 12 children. One daughter named Harriet, another daughter named Young Betsy. These two sisters were raped by the slave master who owned our family in Eastern Shore, Maryland. As a result of that rape, in February of 1818, Aunt Harriet gave birth to the greatest black leader to ever walk American soil. His name was Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. At the age of 20, cousin Fred ran away from Baltimore, changed his name from Fred Bailey to Fred Douglass. In 1819, his half-brother and first cousin was born, my 4 times great-grandfather, Stephen Henry Bailey. He wasn't lucky enough to run away. He married an enslaved woman, my grandma Caroline. She didn't learn how to read until 1909. On November 14, 1841, they had my 3 times great-grandfather, George Washington Bailey, the first black public school teacher in Dayton, Maryland. He married Grandma Annie. They had Grandma Caroline. She moved to Philadelphia. She had Grandma Vivian. She married a Spanish-speaking Cuban immigrant, my great-grandfather Cicero, who I met on his deathbed. They had my Grandma Mida, who died 6 years ago. She met and married James Johnson, who died a few years before that. They had my father Jamal. He met and married my mother Barbara, and on August the 21st, in the ghetto in North Philadelphia, I was born to do one thing: help black children and all children reach their destiny. Black power.
I need everybody to come in. We have to move on now.